Hello, hello, hello. I'm back and hopefully you are too. Um, let's do a little recap of the last episode. And if you're just jumping on for any reason and finding this episode, this is a podcast about my life and it is a chronological order. So you would want to go back to the beginning and listen. And I really hope you do because this has been an amazing experience for myself and healing and finding some gratitude along the way and hoping to share that with other people and making others feel not as alone. Letting people know that healing is possible, forgiveness is possible, and just trying to stay above water like everyone else. My life still has its setbacks constantly, so this is just the story of my setbacks and my triumphs, and I appreciate you for listening and getting back to where we left off last week. Just me being a chaotic dater, serial dater, kind of letting other people's feelings be disposable to me at certain points in my life and just really having regrets about that at, that time in my life. And now just finally where I left off, my grandmother pissed me off again, went and spread grandpa's ashes and didn't give me none. She's a mean lady, you guys, mean lady. So I had left off last time about, dating a few different girls off and on and just kind of not knowing where my life was going. And then this one girl, she kind of sparked a little something different and decided that I would get into a relationship. So I started dating Carolyn in October, and it just came out of nowhere, kind of like great loves can sometimes, I guess. And it wasn't something that I was expecting. Of course, I guess those are what makes it great in a lot of ways. Didn't even know Carolyn liked girls. I don't think Carolyn knew she liked girls either. But for some reason she liked me and I was not opposed to it. So we started dating and it was kind of just, like I said, out of nowhere, really quick. And I had known Carolyn for quite some time, probably about 10 years or so. She was a little bit younger than me. Like I said, like we weren't in school. I think I graduated high school when she graduated 8th grade. So I think she was about 4 years younger than me. And we weren't in school together, but we did have mutual friends. And Jenna was one of those mutual friends. So they were friends back in high school. And that's kind of how I knew her. She had some mutual friends that I shared as well. And so we start dating. I move from Taft to Bakersfield, and I mean, thank goodness that, no hate to my Taft people, but Taft just wasn't a good place for me to thrive. I found myself getting into more chaos in Taft than I did doing anything positive or constructive with my life. Even though there's a lot of positives and a lot of people that I love there, the town just wasn't rocking for me anymore. So I moved to Bakersfield with Carolyn and her son, and it came out of nowhere for her as well. I know that she wasn't looking for a relationship either, and it just kind of presented itself and we both jumped on board and went with it. And she introduced me to her family, and her mom was just this super awesome force to be reckoned with. Laura was this immediately positive person, and I hadn't had that with a partner yet, really, where their family immediately jumped into the success of our relationship and just being supportive and being loved. And Laura was that. With me losing my mom, like Laura immediately stepped into that role and kind of, was just really nurturing in ways that my mom wasn't. So it was just a really cool experience for me and a really loving experience for me. She, I would come, and she did it with everyone. It wasn't just me. It was just who she was, which was amazing. And, but every time you walk in her house, it's like she immediately jumps up and is like, what do you want to eat? Like, what can I make you? And, and she just was very inspiring. She worked in the oil and gas industry. She was the one that convinced me to apply for a job with Chevron. Like, I was a business partner with Chevron at the beginning, and she was the one that was just like, Shauna, you can do this. She helped me with my resume. She, was used to the industry, so she knew how to gear it up and make me feel confident being a woman going into a male-dominated field, to have the confidence that I needed to succeed. And she just helped build that up in me, and she did that in her daughters. Both of her daughters were in the same industry, Carolyn and Stephanie, and at the time, and Carolyn was in the same, like, working in oil and gas as well, not with me or the same company as me, but she just, excelled at work. She really put herself into work, and that was the first time I dated someone other than Donnie that was on their career path. She was a little bit younger than me. She was just super driven, didn't take any shit off of anyone, was very capable, very smart when it came to all of the ins and outs of what she did for work. And I won't get into what she did for work because it's none of your business. But that really, really attracted me to her initially, because I was like, wow, like, this chick is a little, powerhouse. Like, she's just got, a great house. She's got a great role model for a mom that pushes her and helps her and supports her. And it was, completely foreign to me to see that relationship. And to also have that support from my partners. And I hate that. I mean, it is partnership and it's all these things, but I'm one of those fags that just hates the fucking partner word. It's gay to me, and I'm gay, so I'm allowed to say that, I guess, is the rules that society has that says I'm allowed to say those things. So anyway, squirrel. But yeah, so Carolyn was really just this financially responsible. I was not. I didn't even have insurance at the time that we got together, as far as medical insurance. And that really kind of, for her, she was like, what the hell? You don't have insurance? Like, what if something happens to you? What if this? What if that? And so she was the first person that got me thinking, like, future and, like, what are you doing? Why don't you have insurance? Like, what the F is your problem, Shauna? So Carolyn really got me thinking differently and got me in this headspace of level up. It's time to level up. So that's what started happening. I started leveling up, and I started being approached like, hey, like, these jobs are coming available, you should apply. So I did it, and I ended up getting hired on with Chevron, and that turned out to be what my career is, and not something that I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait to grow up and work in the oil fields. But it has been a blessing, and it is something that has, one of those things that completely changed my life for a positive. And so Carolyn and I are together, we're dating. She has a son. I won't talk too much about him either, but great little guy. Loved the shit out of him. Put me in I had dated people with kids before and lived with them, but not like this. He was a big highlight for me. Really cemented for me that I wanted children, that I desired that family life, and that was a big goal of mine. And like, they completed that for me. They put all of those missing pieces that I was unsure if I was ready for. They kind of stuck it all together for me and made it very enjoyable for, quite some time. And just having the support of her siblings, Carolyn's siblings, were all, I speak with them, to this day, and I love them all very much, and wish them all the best still, of course. And, so Carolyn and I, we live in Bakersfield with her sister when I first get together with her. And we decided at some point that we would be domestic partners, and she really wanted me to have insurance. And I'm not saying that's the only reason we domestic partnered it up, but, she was looking out for me and taking care of me. And it was an opportunity that was there, and we took it. And so, we're good. Everything's great. And we're renting a house at this time, and then we decide that we're going to buy a house. So Bakersfield has a little area called Rosedale, and it's basically all the people that wanted to get out of Taft or move to Bakersfield moved to Rosedale pretty much. And I called it, Fancy Taft, because that's kind of what it was. It was all a bunch of Taft people, not all, but it was a crap ton of Taft people moving over there, and a lot of them were our age. But we bought a house, and things were good, and then they weren't, because another loss happened that was just completely unpredictable, and also won't get into the extreme detail of it as well, because I mean, I hope that they listen to my podcast, but for me, this was my experience with it, and I can't project how anyone else's experience was. But so we were at our house, and we went trick-or-treating, and Carolyn's mom, Laura, was there with us and took the grandkids trick-or-treating, and we had a good night. She went home. Everything was cool. And then the next day she's sick. Carolyn's mom is sick. And so Carolyn's, telling her, like, oh, you need to follow up. She had a doctor's appointment, I believe, if I'm correct. And she was like, oh, I'm just going to wait because I have a doctor's appointment. And I think Carolyn told her, like, no, and so Carolyn had called her aunt, who lived in the same town as her mom, which was outside of Bakersfield a little ways, and asked her aunt to go check on her mom. But when her aunt got there, her mom was in bed, couldn't get out of bed, just didn't look well. So they called an ambulance. And when the ambulance got there, they were checking her out, and her blood pressure was insanely low. And I didn't really know anything about, medical health stuff back then. Didn't have a reason to really, because she hadn't been sick, and she was fine when she was at our house, and it hadn't even been a day, and so we were just like, what? And then, so the ambulance took her to Bakersfield to one of the hospitals, and I stayed at home with Wyatt, and Carolyn had went to the hospital and stayed. And the next morning I woke up, and I was going to take Wyatt to school, but it was early, and they had done an emergency surgery on her mom, and we didn't really know what the hell was going on, and we were just like, what is happening? And so I took Wyatt to her cousin's house and dropped him off, and she kept him, and I went to the hospital, and we were, kind of sitting in this area and they had a code blue, and it was literally like, I just remember it being like kind of a movie. Like, it's me, her brother, her sister, I think a couple of her aunts were there, and maybe her grandma. And like, we heard it over the loudspeaker, and then, you know, Carolyn looks at me and says, well, what is that? What does that mean? And I was like, I don't know. And it was just this weird, like, sound, you know, and they don't say a name. They just kind of say, like, I guess where it's at, and, you know, that they need kind of all hands on deck. And so, like, I remember Carolyn just taking off running and going down the hall, and they had brought her mom out, and they told us, like, we had done an exploratory surgery, and we have to leave her, you know, in this situation until we find out, like, what's going on. And I mean, to eliminate any speculation or anything, there was zero foul play or drug use or anything like that. Like, it was literally one of those situations. They didn't know what was causing her to be so sick, and they had to do an exploratory surgery because she was septic. And, you know, so I don't want anyone thinking anything weird or anything like that. So but anyways, so they told us they were going to leave her like that, and once they got her settled back in her room in ICU, that they would let us go back and see her. And so when the code blue thing happened and Carolyn took off running, you know, we all did. And we get back there, and it was her room, and, you know, we see them all go in, and so then someone takes us in a room, and there's discussions and just all these things. And it was just so fucking overwhelming. We didn't know what was going on. And it was less than an hour, and they decided not to continue to put their mom through what was happening to revive her, because so much damage had happened trying to revive her, with the extreme that they had to go to, that the doctors basically said that her quality of life wouldn't have been that great, or, you know, any kind of quality of life at all. And so, just like that, I mean, I was 30, so Carolyn's like 26, 27. I was maybe 31. I was 31. And so, you know, and then her siblings are all younger than her. And I'm just standing there, like, watching their lives fall apart and crumble. And I had no idea what to do. I was just completely at a loss. I was like, holy shit, this is not real life. This is not fucking happening. Like, what is going on? And I mean, she was literally in the hospital for less than 12 hours, and she was gone. Just, it was terrible. And, you know, it just changed everything, of course, as it's going to. It was like, you know, it was like she fucking got hit by a car. It was just gone or something. And there were no answers, because she was in the hospital less than 12 hours. It was up to the hospital if they wanted to do an autopsy, and they decided not to. And it was just a fucked up situation, and I don't want to get into, you know, a lot more detail than that, really, about it, because the details aren't my story to tell. I'm just trying to put the experience into a box, I guess, I don't know, into words for me and what it did. And so, you know, of course, like, that changes everything as far as life. I mean, their mom was their everything, and, vice versa. Her kids were her everything, and that shit changes you. And I had experienced it firsthand when I lost my mom, and, for the first time, it was crazy. Like, it kind of put things into perspective for me about Priscilla not being able to support me through my mom's death, because you don't know what to do. Even if it happens to you, like, I had lost my mom and I was completely just at a loss for where to go, what to do, how to alleviate, because I knew nothing I could do or say was going to make her feel better. Nothing I could do or say was going to make her days bright or shiny or easy, or even make them one worth fucking living, And so, sorry, I'm all snotty. So, like, I just kind of tried to take on house chores and, like, take on kid chores and just make sure Wyatt was, because he was very involved in sports, and, like, we had him playing football and baseball and just different things. And so I would just try to make sure I could do what I could to take the day-to-day responsibilities away from her. And I probably didn't always do the best at that. Carolyn's not, a lazy person, and wasn't the kind of person that just laid around and let shit be undone for long. So, I just tried to support in any way that I could to make it easier, even though I knew it was going to be impossible. But it just changed the dynamic of our relationship so much. And, I saw the focus of us building this life together take a back seat. And, I there was nothing I could do. Nothing, I mean, for lack of saying it and repeating myself, there was just nothing I could do. And so, her and I started just disrespecting one another, arguing more, everything's just on edge. I fucking break shit in our house because I feel like I can't communicate, so I'm fucking throwing shit and breaking shit, and never, I mean, not that this is any excuse or way to walk myself out of my responsibility in my part of the demise of our relationship, but I never did those things when Wyatt was home, but he had to come home to things after that. Sometimes, it's like, where's our table? Oh, well, we aren't telling the 5-year-old or 6-year-old that, I got fucking drunk and broke it. So, that I have a lot of guilt and a lot of shame around, even though he didn't witness it, putting Carolyn and him in that situation that I'm sure didn't feel safe to her. I'm sure she was probably, and we didn't communicate well, so a lot of our demise probably goes to that as well. But, like, I can't imagine what she was thinking at times when I'm breaking shit or doing the things that I'm doing, and her thinking, my God, what if my kid was here, so that is something that I very much regret and hate about our relationship at the time. And it just really, I guess, for me, it made me understand that life is very tricky, and I strategically think some weird way I was put in Carolyn's life, and she was put in mine, for both of us to show each other what the other one was capable of. And, like, I feel like I was maybe put there to support her in a time that nobody could have predicted. And, even through all the bad, I hope that she feels there was a lot of good in it too, because I do, like, and I do appreciate the shit out of all the lessons and all of the heartache and the bullshit, because just like any other relationship, like, there was a lot of love there and there was a lot of good times, and I don't regret it. I don't ever wish it wouldn't have happened, because she made me better for so many reasons, and I thank her profusely for that. And yeah, so we ended up splitting up. It was one of those, like, I had that 3 year, I think I've mentioned it prior, I've had that 3 year thing. Like, I would get it at a point in a relationship where I was like 3 years in. I used to call it my 3 year itch, not my 7 year itch. Like, I have 3 years, and like, we tried to mend it, we tried to fix it more than once, but it just didn't happen. It wasn't in the cards for us. And that's okay, because we did, we had the house, and it was just constant leveling up, and yay. So there was just volatile drinking, those types of things, just not good things. So anyways, I'm working still. I was going to school at first, then stopped. So at this point, I'm working for Chevron, and I'm just starting to make decent money, for the first time in my life. And I decided I don't want to go to school no more. Like, my ambition, my drive, my goals were just not a priority at that point. So I stay living in Bakersfield. I move out of Carolyn's place, and we were not on friendly terms. So it was very much a both of us kind of just were like, deuces, fuck off, bye. After, trying to fix it for however long, and then it was like, okay, no, we don't need to be here anymore. So we got there. That's always a good place to get when it's not healthy. So I, get an apartment. I'm living life, just doing my thing. Stayed with Sharon for a while. And, was just like, okay, like, this bouncing around is killing me. I'm fucking in my 30s, my early 30s. Like, what am I doing? So I move in with, she's more like family to me, but I move in with Brittany, and her relationship that she had been in was ending, and she had a little 2-bedroom place. And so I was like, okay, no kids here. Like, I could have my own room. I can focus on me. So I get hell bent on this. I don't know what it was. I had gotten into a point where I was working out a lot, wasn't drinking, because, when I was with Carolyn, like, it was a lot of partying, and it just wasn't good. And I'm finally, starting to figure out all this drinking and all it's cracked up to be. So, especially when you're unhealthy in your own mind, and you haven't dealt with your issues, and you have all this trauma and this anger built up inside of you, and you're just pissed off at the world, but then you realize it's kind of self-induced. And that's where my relationship, this is where my relationship with alcohol kind of starts taking a turn, thankfully. And I stop getting drunk and doing shit I regret. I by no means had a healthy relationship with alcohol still, but I wasn't getting drunk and purposely trying to sabotage myself or people's emotions and feelings in my life. And to back it up, sorry, I'm going to back up a tiny bit. When I was with Carolyn, and this was one of the things Carolyn told me when we were together that just made me respect the shit out of her kind of more than I already did in a lot of reasons. Tanya and I, like I said, had shared a lot of friends. We were the same grade growing up. And Tanya has a older sister. She has two older sisters, but this older sister, Shannon, they share the same dad, and then Shannon also has a younger brother named Cody that is not Tanya's brother. I'm not even going to try to get into all this Taft weird shit that these motherfuckers had going on. But Cody and Tanya share an older sister, Shannon, but Cody and Tanya are not related at all by blood or by marriage or nothing. They just share an older half-sister. So we are at Cody's house because Cody is my age and I'm friends with his wife. Tanya is friends with his wife. So Carolyn and I, when we're dating, is also friends with his wife because Taft, small, whatever. But we're over at their house and we're hanging out, and like Cody and Lindsay and I and Carolyn were there, and like for whatever reason we start talking about Tanya. And I hadn't talked to Tanya at this point it's been a minute. It had been years. I hadn't talked to her in years. But she, of course, like we have the same friends. Like every once in a while we would see each other at like a birthday party or something, but we didn't speak. And so we are talking about Tanya at Cody and Lindsay's. We're drinking, and it just made me miss Tanya. Like it made me miss her as a friend because of the way Cody and Lindsay were talking about her. And so that night I went out, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning-ish, and I called Tanya, and she didn't answer, so we didn't talk still. But I fucking told Carolyn, hey, like, I called Tanya. So of course we get in a big fight about it, and I was like, fuck. And so the next day we're at home, and I'll never forget it. Like, she was taking a shower, and I'm standing in our bathroom, and we're just talking and arguing, but not like crazy at this point. And she's super pissed off at me and super upset, which absolutely she should have been. And she said, I was just like, I'm sorry I called her. And she was like, well, why did you call her? And I'm like, because I miss her. She was one of my friends. She wasn't just someone I dated. Like, I miss her. And like, she was a friend. And she said, well, if you miss her, maybe you should call her when you're sober during the day, not at 1 o'clock in the morning when you're drunk. And I was like, oh, like those words just, I was like, and that was one of the things, that I loved about Carolyn, was her bluntness, her matter of factness. Sometimes, her delivery wasn't the best, but in those situations, why would it have been? I didn't deserve that respect at that time, and I totally get that. And but that was one of those like holy shit aha moments that humbled me, made me really need to be put in my place and be like, no, Shauna, you fucking idiot, you fucked up. Like, you're with this girl, committed in a relationship, and you're calling someone else. Idiot. I was an idiot. So anyways, me and Carolyn are done, right? But that was one of those moments. Thanks for that, Carolyn. Because that was a good one. But so I decide, I'm working out all the time. I'm not drinking. I'm living in this apartment downtown. And Carolyn and I had tried to get back together. It didn't work. And I was just sick of like in and out, moving around all over. So with Brittany, she had this little apartment, 2-bedroom apartment. She's like, hey, I'm in school. I'm working all the time. Like, if you want, you can live here, whatever. So I was like, perfect opportunity, perfect spot. Like, let's do this. I'm totally going to move in. And I had it in my mind, I'm going to keep up on, my physical stuff. And I am going to take this time to not date. So this was when I went on my 1-year sabbatical from sex. I was like, I am not going to hook up with anyone at all. I'm not going to entertain it. I'm not going to flirt. I'm not going to I'm not going to open my heart or my legs, people. Okay? That's where I was with it. So I'm hellbent and I get on this path, right? And I'm doing good. I'm just like, okay, what am I doing? What do I want my next step in life to be? And so I'm living with Brittany. I'm working my ass off. I'm like stacking money in my 401k. I'm focused. I'm sticking to it. I'm not dating anyone. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm barely partying. And then I was like getting better. So I'm like, okay, like not being with someone is great. I'm figuring me out for the first time ever. I'm focused on Shauna and focused on work and like just getting out of this spiral of excuses of why my life sucks so fucking hard all the time, right? So things are going great. And during all these moments of clarity, guess what happens, guys? I decide I fucking love Tanya still. I decide I'm gonna go get a notebook, and I'm not joking you, it was a fucking notebook. And I get this notebook and I write in this notebook every time I want to talk to Tanya. Every time I think about her. And so I got in this notebook and I start writing, and I'm writing our story. And I just, her and I never really sat down and talked about all the things and all the details and why I was doing what I was doing and why I let Priscilla come back in and, stir my thoughts and my emotions and my feelings, and why I didn't act on what I wanted and what I thought I wanted and all of these things. So like I was just having this great journaling / telling her without being interrupted, without being clouded with another relationship, without being clouded by outside noise. I was just working my ass off, staying at home. Me and Brittany would just hang out. Like, she worked so much. I was rotating days and nights. She was freaking rotating nights, going to school down in Long Beach. I mean, we barely would see each other, but like Brittany was really the only person during this time of living in this apartment that I was spending a lot of time with. And she's very driven and very religious and calm, and just was a good influence on what I was doing at the time. And, we kind of just were doing life together, helping each other out, like supporting one another as far as not financially or anything like that, but just, being homies and having a good time and skateboarding and dancing and just being dumb and going on bike rides and just being dumb. And it was awesome. And so I'm writing Tanya this letter, and it's weeks I'm writing this shit. It's pages and pages and pages and pages. It ended up being, I don't even remember how many pages, but it ended up being really long. And so I finish it, and I'm just like, obviously I would love to hear from you. You want to talk, but if you don't, I get it too. I just wanted you to know where I was and where I was coming from, and like the motives behind whatever I was doing at that time in my life. And so it was just a release for me, and I was hoping to give her some insight of what was happening behind the scenes, because I was not forthcoming with her when we were in a relationship and when we were going through all that. I would just be like, listen, this isn't working. I gotta go. I'm freaking the fuck out, but deuces. It would be one of those, not fair, not. And I'm very much a person that needs closure. With all of my past relationships, the serious ones, especially where I was living with the person or spent those years in, very important parts of their life, and vice versa. Like, I very much look back on all of my relationships and can name specifically what that person gave to me. I can't say what I gave to them, but I know what each relationship gave to me, and I'm so grateful for all of them. And I needed closure, and so I hoped that it had given Tanya closure, but I also hoped it would open her fucking heart to me, even though she was still in a relationship. So I had a friend that was willing to deliver the goods, and it wasn't Allison is all I'm going to say. It wasn't Allison. I just don't want Allison to get blamed and everyone to automatically think it was her. So the letter was delivered. The letter was read. Tanya kept the letter for a minute. And then it was disposed of, and I never heard from her. I never heard from her. I never got the call. I never was like, yep, let's do this, So I was like, fuck. So this is in 2016, you guys, okay? 2016. So still living with Brittany. And I'm like, okay, it's not happening. She's fucking definitely done with my ass. After hearing that, if that didn't tug on any heartstrings and get her back, fucking nothing will, right? And so, and I mean, mind you, it had been over 6 years since we had been together. So my ass was still pining for this girl. Like, she got up in there, got up in here, and up in here, up in that heart and head, and fucked me up, y'all. In a very good way, though. So while I'm rebuilding my life, I decide I'm gonna get on this credit journey, get my credit rocking, because I had been a dipshit in the past, had credit card bills that I wasn't paying, was trying to like get things going in my life as far as like I wanted to buy a house, and I was told, I needed to get my credit up a little bit. So I was like, okay, so that's what I was doing, just paying off all my shit, getting some credit built up, and I decided I'm gonna buy a house because I'm sick of moving, because I'm in my 30s. I'm gonna be 36 years old, and guess what? I've never lived in a place longer than 3 years. Never once in my life had I lived in a place longer than like 3 years. So I was like, I'm buying a fucking house all by myself. No one's gonna make me move out. No one's gonna make me get rid of my shit. No, I'm not sharing nothing with no one. I was in my very selfish Shauna phase, and it was a good phase for me, and it made me grow up. And so I did it. I lived with Brittany for about a year, and during this time, Tanya's not getting back to me, so I was like, okay, it's time for Shauna to move on and probably open herself up to the non-dating. So I reached my year mark of not dating anyone, and then randomly a friend hits me up and is like, hey, I have a friend that lives, up in Sacramento, and she's this, that, and the other, and single, and like, would you be interested in meeting her? And so I was like, sure, like, why not? Like, she doesn't live here, fucking yes, that's the first plus, So end up meeting this girl, and we end up dating. It was cool. She was older than me, had her shit together, no kids, no exes that were messy. The relationship was pretty easy other than the distance. I lived in Bakersfield, she lived in Sacramento, but I think for me, being back in a relationship for the first time, that was probably really good, because I didn't have to deal with the constant of a relationship, because it had been probably at that time like 2 years since Carolyn and I had split up, and I wasn't used to sharing, my space with someone, or my time being monopolized by another human being and their feelings. So I think it was a really good experience for me to date someone that was a little bit older than me too. Like, she was, I think, 5 years older than me. So having that was kind of cool. And she was also established and very independent and driven. So that was a cool experience. And, it was getting serious at a point, and we discussed maybe living together or starting a life together that looked something more like something more permanent. But in the growth that I did in that 1 year of being alone and not letting someone else kind of hijack my thoughts and feelings and not be confused by anything else, like the letter to Tanya really kind of set me free and let me know, like, and this is, I mean, this is straight up just how it is, and there's no way to fucking sugarcoat it. I've loved a lot of people. I've been in love with a few people, and straight up, like, nothing ever compared to Tanya. Nothing held up to that. Nothing eased my heart. Nothing fucking fulfilled me. Nothing completed me. Nothing. All the gay things that people say. Nothing ever allowed me to be, and it wasn't that I didn't need the support of all these people in my past and all these strong women and men in my past that helped me, but nothing compared to Tanya. No one, no situation, no feeling, no wholeness. And that is just what we're dealing with here. So when it got time for me and this other girl that I'm dating to start being serious about where is our future going, I started kind of panicking and backpedaling and like, I'm not ready for this because I don't want this if it's not with Tanya. And it's going to have to be, if I'm going to have this with another human being, if I'm going to commit and have a home and sacrifice and be vulnerable and open up and just thrive again and be in a relationship where I want that to be what I'm successful at, it's going to have to be someone that makes me feel equal to, if not more than what Tanya made me feel. And that, subconsciously is just on a reel in my fucking head because I have ADHD and I can't not have a constant reel playing in my head of some sort, So, I, not in a mean way or whatever, or any way that I had ever split up with someone before. I was just like, hey, like, this isn't working, like, and I tried to fight through it, but like my mind was just, and even though Tanya hadn't gotten back to me, my mind was just, I couldn't get her out. I couldn't get her not on this loop. And I just ended that other relationship, and it ended in September of 2016. I had written that letter and given it to Tanya in, I want to say March or April, maybe even May of 2016-ish. And I had no idea what was going on in Tanya's life. Like, I knew where she lived, as far as she didn't live where I lived, and I knew that she was still dating the person that she had been dating since she told me to fucking get lost back in 2019, or 2009, I'm sorry. So, I didn't try to reach out to her anymore. Like, I just left that letter as my last fucking will and testament to her heart. And so, I'm living in my house in Bakersfield, by myself at this point. Oh no, I'm sorry. I had gotten a roommate. I had lived there for almost a year by myself. And then I get a roommate, and I'm like, get off work one morning because I was working nights, and I'm cleaning out my swimming pool, and I'm talking to my friend Allison, and it's October, and I'm just cleaning out my pool, right? And I have my phone, I had a sports bra on, and I had my phone in my sports bra because I didn't have headphones in. And we're talking, and she's just like, listen, I have something to tell you, and I can't fucking keep it in anymore. And I was just like, okay. And I'm not thinking, well, she's going to tell me, right? So she says, Tanya's single. Her and her partner broke up, and Tanya's single. And I'm literally like, Allison, what the fuck? It's like 6:30 in the morning on like a Tuesday. What am I supposed to do with this information, Allison, Brienne? So, sorry, I had a sinus infection and then I cried a little bit. I'm all snotty. And so I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? And she's just like, yeah, like they're split up. They're not getting back together. And I'm like, okay, like, okay, what happened? And I'm like, and she's like, I don't really know. I just know that they're not together. And I don't think they're going to try to work it out at all. And like, it's not like a terrible situation breakup, but it's kind of like they've tried everything they can try and it's not working. And Tanya's going to move out. And I'm just like, basically trying to do fucking somersaults, okay? Like I'm a cheerleader. Guess who's not a cheerleader? Me. Guess who doesn't know how to do somersaults? Me. So I'm like fucking pumped, right? I'm just stoked. I'm like cleaning my pool out, just fuck yeah, getting leaves out and shit. And I lean over and I'm just like wanting all this information, and my fucking phone, you guys, falls out of my sports bra into my pool. And it's 6:30 in the morning in October, which isn't super cold in Bakersfield, but at 6:30 in the morning, it is kind of chilly in October. And this was before phones were waterproof, y'all. What did I do? Jump my ass up in that motherfucker. Got in that pool. Got my phone out, put it in some rice. Got my work phone. Had to call Allison back. And so she didn't have a whole lot of details at this point, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to call her, obviously. She didn't even say a word about fucking me to anyone yet. So it's not like she's over there fucking trying to knock my door down and whatever. So I'm just like, holy shit. So boom, boom, boom. And then I get a call like a week after that. And it's like from another friend. And it's like, dude, I have something that's like burning. I think she said like burning a hole in my tongue or something like that. And I was like, what's up? And she's like, dude, Tanya broke up with so-and-so and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I know. And she's like, what do you mean you know? And I was like, yeah, Allison told me. I'm like, but I ain't heard nothing and I'm just chilling. I said, I can't do anything about it. Like, obviously she's in a little bit of a mess. She probably needs some time. So I'm just chilling, right? So, mind you, at this point, like, I'm tripping. So the girl that I was dating, that I broke up with in September, her and I had a trip planned out to her family's in Wyoming for Thanksgiving that year. And I had already taken the time off work. I had already had the vacation scheduled and planned and in the books and whatever. And we were supposed to be jamming up there for a week for Thanksgiving. Well, since we split up, like I still had my company the way that they are, I still had to take my vacation. So I said, okay, well, I still have to take vacation. Like I was making good money and I was like, I still want to go somewhere. I still want to do something. So what am I going to do? So I said, fuck it. I'm still going to go on vacation. I'm going to go somewhere that I want to go that is cool. So I'm like looking around, and I had been out of the country a couple times and, you know, been on some cool vacations and some tropical places. And I love tropical places. Don't get me wrong. They are my jam. But I'm a music lover first and foremost. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to motherfucking Nashville. I've never been to Nashville. I want to go to Nashville. I love nerdy shit. I love all genres of music. I'm going to Nashville. I watched this great documentary and I was like, I'm going. So I get online. I just booked my flight first. I said, fuck it. I already have these days on vacation. I'm going this date. I'm coming home this date. And so, and it was right before Thanksgiving because that's, when we were going to be gone, whatever. So I came home from Nashville the day before Thanksgiving from vacation. I went out there for a full week by myself, rented an Airbnb, and just blew it out. Just went rock star fucking hard in Nashville. Went to all the museums. Went down to Memphis. Went to Graceland. Went on all the tours. Did all the things, went to see all these bands. It was during football, so I would go to the bars and watch football games and just Ubered my ass off, had a great time in Nashville, chilling. Well, while I'm there, I get sick and had like a little head cold. It wasn't anything super terrible, so I had went and got some like cold medicine, and I was really congested one night, so I had went out like the night before and had a good time. And then that day I had tickets, that evening I had tickets to the Grand Ole Opry. So I go to the Grand Ole Opry and I watch the thing that they had on there that night, and it was cool. I come back, Ricky Skaggs was there for all my country lovers. So I come back, I take the cold medicine, I pass out, go to sleep. Well, like back then you didn't have do not disturb on your phone, right? So it's 10:30ish Nashville time, and I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden, like, my phone's ringing, and I'm just like, it's a number I don't know. It's an 805 number, and I'm like, I don't know this number, and so I'm just like, boop, so I just decline it, right? And then, like, I get a call from a friend. I'm like, dude, why are all these people calling me? So I put my phone on vibrate, and my shit is just blowing up. This number I don't know. Different friends, like 5 different friends call me, and I'm just like, what is going on? So finally, I listen to a voicemail, and it's like, answer your fucking phone. Tanya's trying to call you. And so I'm out of it because, like, I'm on the meds, and I'm like, Tanya's trying to call me. And I'm like, what? And then it clicks, 805, which is where Tanya lives, in the 805. I'm like, oh, shit, y'all. So I'm like, that's the fucking, in my mind, I'm like, that's the 805 number that's been calling me. Holy shit! So my ass, like what? And I listen, and so I call one of my friends back, and I was like, what is going on? And she's like, Tanya's trying to call you. Answer your fucking phone. She's trying to call you. And she doesn't have service on her phone, because I knew Tanya's phone number by heart, because it's just like my phone number still to this day. And it wasn't the number that was calling me. And I was just like, okay. So I call that number back. I get off the phone with a friend. I call that number back, the 805 number. And I hear, hello? And I go, hello? And I hear, Shauna fucking Christian. And I said, Tanya fucking White, what are you doing? And she's like, trying to get a hold of you. What are you doing? And I said, well, I'm on vacation in Nashville. And she's all, yeah, that's what I hear. You called me. She called me. So, like, May to November is how long it took for what I put out into the fucking universe to come back to me tenfold. And guess what? We're going to stop now, because that's how I like to torture you. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, so she called you guys, and we talked on the phone for 5 hours straight. Still have a screenshot of our phone call. It was like 4 hours and 53 minutes long on November 19th. And guess what? We're fucking married. And we'll get to that in the next episode. But I'm going to leave it right there on a good note. And again, I just cannot thank you guys enough for listening and supporting me. And, as I've gone through this, I've actually had some really good conversations with some exes recently. Priscilla in particular, about just forgiveness and the road that this crazy life takes us on. And, you know, having support from people that I dated and people that I've hurt emotionally and mentally in my past, just to have these full circle moments of clarity and forgiveness and openness has been amazing. And I hope that any of you listening can experience some of those same things and experience the love and the compassion that I've gotten through this process. So again, thank you all so much, and I will chat with you guys soon. I appreciate you all, and have a great day.